Oh, so I've actually just typed in onto the Google adrenochrome, and the top story is the dark virality of a Hollywood blood harvesting conspiracy.
Oh my God.
Citizens of the world, you are under my control.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem with the Wi-Fi stuff.
Right. All right, well, let's begin. I'm recording. Okay, so welcome to the Megaverse podcast. Don't know what episode, and today we're going to have a look at the Judge Dredd Megazine, issue 421. But before we do that, let's introduce our hosts. We've got Kieran.
Hi.
And Dave.
Hello.
And me, obviously, Julius Howe, who you know. So have you two got anything interesting you've been up to in the last 2 months, wherever it's been since the last podcast?
I'm pleased that the gym's open finally.
Yeah.
I can go back to weightlifting, which is good because that's been driving me mad. I've not been able to actually do that. And it's also nice that I can hear a child screaming.
Yeah, that's my child. He will continue. Don't worry.
Yeah,
he stops after a while.
It's nice to go back lifting. And when I went to the gym yesterday, I was actually chatting to the owner, my mate. He said to me, "Kieran, have you thought about doing steroids?" I said, "No, I haven't." And he was giving me a list of reasons why all training is pointless unless you start doing steroids.
Really?
Yeah. He says, "I've got all the books here if you want them."
So you're going to do them?
Next week. Oh, I'm just going to start slamming gear, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to inject it into my neck.
Yeah.
Is the owner on commission now? You see, he might be like, a bit dodgy. He might be just trying to make a bit of money, ain't you?
It might be him that's trying to sell them, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
He might
doctor.
have like a steroid draw.
To be fair, steroids would be better than the heroin you normally take, so I mean, it's a bonus.
Well, at least this time I'll look hench on it. Heroin, you don't look hench at all. It's all about looking big these days, isn't it?
That's true. Men used to have like a very skinny look was popular, didn't they, when heroin was popular?
Heroin chic, yeah.
Yeah.
So people were all over people like Johnny Depp because they look like junkies.
Turns out he's not.
Sorry?
Turns out he's not. He's not a junkie.
No, but it turns out that his missus shit the bed.
Allegedly.
She looks the type, doesn't she?
Is it me or did I quite like that?
You quite like what? Mind you, she dating Elon Musk now. She dating Elon Musk?
I believe so. Wasn't he implicated in visiting our hotel late at night?
I'll admit, when I look at the news, I don't really take any of it in. I just read the headline generally.
The thing is with people like Elon Musk, he's clearly off his head on mushrooms or something all the time. We'll speak about mushrooms a bit later on in regards to Blunt, by the way. But I think Elon Musk is taking psychedelics. The stuff that he comes out with.
Am I going to have to edit all this stuff out?
No, I think
that's just my opinion.
It's okay, good. So if you do, Elon, if you do want to sue someone, you go for this guy, Kieran.
But he's publishing it.
So anyway, is the gym, how packed is it there? I assume that the COVID bug has affected attendance at your gym.
Very much so. So my gym is these two railway arches, and as you can imagine, it's actually quite small. And the guidelines are 7 people. I think it's 1 person per 70 square meters or something like that. So you've got to book time slots when to go in, and I really like that. I think I am about 5% autistic, so I kind of like organising my day like that. It's really good. And when you go in there now, everything is laid out with tape so you've got like a box to stand in, and I really like that.
Okay.
So if anyone gets into your box, you tell them to fuck off.
Define boundaries.
Yeah, I love it. It's really nice, actually. Yeah.
I suppose
How does it work with people spotting you, Kay?
I'm sorry?
How does it work if you want someone spotting you when you're like lifting weights?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know. I never need a spotter.
maybe they have to wear like a hazmat suit.
Well, the thing is, I don't like the whole thing anyway, because when you need a spotter, especially on, like, you know, if you're using like a bench, the knackers are like 6 inches away from your face, and I don't like that anyway. I don't like being so close to someone's genitalia. Like
There's a whole 10-minute routine in this, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sex organs are funny, aren't they?
Is there an increased chance of COVID coming up someone's sweaty bollocks?
I think that probably would happen. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, after we use the equipment, we kind of spray all over it anyway, and then wipe it down. So
I don't know what you're going to do.
Why don't you clean it instead?
No, because we actually spray it with bleach.
Is it cat spray like last time?
Pretty much. No, but really though, the gyms are empty. Even the posh gyms are all kind of empty at the moment.
Wow.
Like all of the brands, all the big chains. People are just scared to train, I think.
You see that both Dave and I, and I'm sure many of the viewers, never set foot in a gym, so it's interesting to hear what it's like inside them.
Well, the really funny thing is, it seems to be that people are following the rules too well to be scared to catch COVID, except when it comes to pubs. Then they just don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
that is true. I went out last Saturday night with a few mates. First time I'd been out properly, and we were trying to socially distance. And I got in the pub, got my first pint. I'd had my temperature check, wrote down my name and address and everything. I felt really secure. They'd cleaned down the table. And then as soon as I sat down, this 20-stone guy I've never seen before came over, hugged me, kissed me on the cheek and told me he loved me. So I thought, well, I've got corona now, so I might as well just carry on.
Well, fuck it, you might as well just snog him back.
Well, that was the carrying on part.
Yeah.
I said the whole pub culture thing is going to be so difficult to manage with social distancing. Because, I mean, how are you going to give a stranger a blowjob in the toilets late at night if you have to socially distance?
Yeah, that's going to be very tricky, really. I suspect the best way around that would be a dental dam.
Or the splash guard thing with a hole cut in it.
Yeah, yes, one of those gloves.
What was that?
Demon sperm.
Demon sperm?
Yeah, haven't you been reading about that? There's a doctor in America who's been saying that COVID's caused by demon sperm.
Oh, yes. Was that Trump's advisor?
Yeah, she's new.
That's a good start.
Yeah, respected Anthony Fauci wasn't good enough, so they decided to replace him with someone who believes in alien DNA and demon sperm.
Legit.
It's 2020. I wouldn't be surprised if any of this was true now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on adrenochrome?
I don't even know what.
No,
I don't even know how to say it.
So it's mentioned in the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but there's this belief now that people are being deliberately scared, so the body produces adrenochrome, which is then harvested by the global elite. So they can
how do they suck it out of you? Let's not go back to the joke about the toilets at night.
You know, just put in maybe they just sort of harvest it from your organs. I don't know exactly.
Yeah. Maybe it's, you know when you go to the doctor and they stick that syringe into your base of your spine, and they suck
I've
that
never
stuff
had
out.
that.
No, do you not do that every month?
No, funnily enough, no, I don't. Do you?
I thought it was normal.
No, I don't think it is. Are you sure that you're going to the right kind of doctor? You're not seeing that Dr. Trump's doctor, are you? One of the demon sperm.
Dr. Demon Sperm, that's his name, yeah. Met him in the pub.
20 stone fella, big guy.
Yeah. So it was said we have awkward pauses in this podcast. I'm not sure if that's the case. I think it's just a bit of lagging on the thing. I don't know if you noticed, my eyes have just started watering.
The thing is about awkward pauses, I think it's only awkward people that care about them. I think awkward pauses are quite funny.
I've built my whole life on awkward pauses.
Well, pretty much,
my
yeah.
awkward pause is when I'm dying not to laugh at something one of you have said.
Well, this is it. Yeah, I mean,
What I'm trying to process is how close we are to getting sued.
That's how I've managed to be so successful through awkward pauses.
Just a question, by the way. Yeah, that's true. So the owners of 2000 AD Rebellion.
Yeah.
Would you say that they're very wealthy?
I would guess so. Yeah.
Pretty wealthy. Certainly millionaires.
Okay. Do you think they would have a cause to want to harvest adrenochrome?
Could be used for gaming, I guess.
Yeah, maybe it's really good for like fast reactions, things like that.
Is that the one that in the film he takes it and then they can't walk or something?
I think so.
Yeah, that was good. That bit, I enjoyed that.
Oh, so I've actually just typed in onto the Google adrenochrome, and the top story is the dark virality of a Hollywood blood harvesting conspiracy.
Oh my God. Is this Russia Today?
It's Wired magazine.
Wired, really? I thought Wired was a reliable...
It says here, so the subheading of that title is, a centuries-old Semitic myth, anti-Semitic myth, is spreading freely on far-right corners of social media.
So they've made it the title of their thing to spread it.
To spread it further.
Yeah.
Was it written by a famous rapper?
I wouldn't say he's very famous.
Well, I've never heard of him, but I wasn't going to mention his name.
It was him that did Where. That was a good track.
I don't know who any of these people even are.
Well, that's because you don't listen to popular music. You're still into your Simon and Garfunkel.
I listen to popular music, sort of popular.
Donovan is not a popular act.
Well, people seem to like him. I mean,
it's popular at the folk club that you go to.
It's.
Do you ever wonder why you're the youngest one there? I know it's your pickup joint, but really, it's not. It's not on.
Well, it's because I'm looking to pick up some old bird, get a free bus pass.
I don't think you're going to get much adrenochrome out of a 90-year-old.
Not for what I'm trying, mate.
If you scare them a lot.
That's what you have to do. You've got to induce fear in them.
Yeah.
So I actually often walk into the old folks' home dressed up as Dr. Mengele.
I don't think there's anyone alive who would have seen him still.
Well, that's awkward pauses.
You should have picked something that old people are going to be more scared of, like, I don't know.
COVID. I dressed up as COVID-19.
Child abandonment.
Abandonment. On old people lonely.
I've been doing some.
What's your main fear of getting old? What are you scared about?
Getting old's one of them, yeah. Dying.
But what is scary about getting old? Is it like the pain associated with age, or is it dementia, losing your memory? For me, it's something like, when you listen to pop music and it just sounds like all bleeps and hisses. It's just when I get to that point,
It's been sounding like that to me since the 1990s.
It's because you're old. I'm still
It's
into
maybe
Post Malone. I love Post Malone. Tekashi 6ix9ine. Listen to him. I love.
Come on, rapidly think of something modern. Go on.
I like Billie Eilish. I've got her album.
I thought it was Billie Ellis.
I don't know.
Good music. Good music too.
I know that she's got green hair. but I don't really know any tracks. See, I'm actually kind of stuck. I put on my Spotify the other day, and it said, "Here is your summer playlist from 2017, 2016,"
Yeah.
and it's the same stuff that I'm listening to now. I was really taken aback by that. My tastes just haven't changed at all in
Very good summer then.
4 or 5
Yeah,
years.
when you get to a certain age, it does that.
Yeah,
You just keep...
it's really annoying.
I don't know so much. Yeah, I like Billie Eilish, as I call her, but I think that should be the name of the band because all her songs are written by her brother, and he doesn't get enough credit.
Oh,
He
is
plays
that
all
true?
the instruments
Really?
and writes all the songs.
I assume he's probably a manager as well and producer. So he's
I
probably
would think so. Yeah, yeah. And she's the front woman.
Yeah.
So, but no, she's great.
So go back to Simon and Garfunkel. Who was the
Yeah.
best, Simon or Garfunkel?
Oh, depends what you like.
Tough call.
I think Garfunkel was the tallest, definitely.
Well, so that helps.
He had more hair as well.
I understand that Paul Simon was the arsehole in that relationship.
Of Simon and Garfunkel,
Yeah,
I think it was interchangeable.
right.
I think they both took the role on at different times.
Mm.
At least
So
Paul
they were-
Simon can still sing. Have you heard Garfunkel sing live within the last decade?
Yeah, he's great.
Actually, I saw Art Garfunkel at the Royal Albert Hall about 12 years ago, maybe, but 10, 12 years ago. And his set was interrupted by this fella who was sat a couple of rows ahead of me. This old guy must have been in his 60s. He stood up,
Paul
shouted.
Simon, wasn't it? It was Paul Simon.
He shouted across the hall, said, "You are not the real Art Garfunkel. You're an imposter." And everything just sort of stopped and just a confused pause. Then before you know it, all the guards were taken up, security, everything.
Was it the real Art Garfunkel?
I assume it was the real Art Garfunkel, but this bloke didn't think so. This bloke was pretty adamant that the fellow on stage was an imposter.
Oh.
Can you take out that awkward pause because of the?
No, I'm going to
The
extend it.
autistic
I'm going to
watching
put it in
get
slow
upset.
mo and make it longer.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm a big fan of both Simon and Garfunkel. Garfunkel had I think it was a throat infection or something about 6 years ago, and he stopped being able to sing entirely, but now he's got his voice back a bit. So his life was pretty much ruined by it. It's terrible.
Well, that's a real shame. I mean, your life being ruined that you can't sing when you're already a multi-millionaire and you don't need to sing anymore. Must be awful.
But all that he wants to do is sing. That's his whole life. He's a good actor as well. He was in a lot of good films.
That happened to Lionel Richie as well, didn't it? He couldn't sing for about 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, and it turned out he found he was allergic to milk. Seriously, and he stopped drinking milk and he got his voice back.
Wow.
That sounds funny, but it's true.
That is amazing.
It's not even
on a more sad note, I discovered that I'm allergic to alcohol.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you discover that? Gives you a terrible headache.
Just a couple of weeks ago. Well, it seems after I go for a drink, the next day I feel absolutely awful.
Yeah.
After about 8 or 9 pints or so, I feel terrible the next day.
Now you mention it, if I have like about sort of, I don't know, 100 pints, I'm sick.
Mm.
Anything less
Are you
than that,
sick?
obviously, I can have.
You're sick the next day after 100 pints.
Just sick. Yeah, feel ill. Anything
Yeah,
less
it's
than
probably
that, I can drink fine.
an intolerance that you've got then.
I think so.
You can do
The
100
adrenochrome
pints.
injection cell.
If I had an injection of alcohol. Have you ever consumed alcohol in a non-oral fashion? I remember someone talking about people eyeballing vodka. But I've never tried.
I've eyeballed vodka. I've had vodka drips in my eyes.
Yeah. Was it?
Have
what
you
happened?
really?
Yeah. When I was like young and stupid.
Was it last year?
What happened?
I got fucked off, man. It's really, yeah, it does work.
It goes into your bloodstream really quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does work. Yeah.
Well, I don't know why you would want to do it though.
I was in Ibiza.
Ibiza.
I was very silly.
What else happened in Ibiza?
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to be watching this, so yeah.
So, what kind of time was it when you were in Ibiza? What was it like? What, early 90s?
96.
Okay, so how old were you then?
23.
So that's like, the prime kind of age, isn't it, to go and do that kind of
Yeah. The club scene was just kicking off big style then over there. Like Manumission was just about to open and stuff like that. So
Is that the one where they had live sex shows?
Yeah. Sadly, they were building it at the bottom of the street where we stayed when we was there. I didn't get to see those.
Are you fond of cream?
And there's a lot of live sex acts knocking about on the beaches at the time.
Really?
Yeah,
I was too young, obviously, to go, but I remember, not that I would have gone if I was old enough, because I'm not savage, but I remember the TV show Ibiza Uncovered, and I made sure I watched every episode of that.
Yeah, so in about 96, I was 11 years old, and I wanted to go.
Did you go?
For the shagging. No, I wasn't allowed.
You would have been great in Ibiza Uncovered. 11-year-old Kieran there, looking to lose his cherry. Or maybe not, maybe just, I don't know when you started.
Well, I was totally up for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they played Simon and Garfunkel in the clubs, I can't remember it.
They would have played that trance remix, wouldn't they? They went on for about 8 minutes.
I would have enjoyed that, yeah. This is Robinson, but they made it trancey and cool. Would have been good.
Bridge over troubled ecstasy.
Yes.
They could have increased that drum beat in the boxer to like 148 BPM, couldn't they?
That is a really good bit actually as well in the boxer, isn't it? The drum beat, yeah. So, comic books.
So this week, I've got some new comics that I've been reading, not 2000 AD based. I've got Lars of Mars.
Okay.
Never seen that.
They later changed the name to Crusader from Mars after one issue. I'm not sure why they didn't think. There are 2 issues. I'm not sure why they didn't. Lars from Mars was a great title. That's from 1951. And I've got, quite relevant at the moment, Atomic War.
Nice.
As well, and that's from 1952. And it also includes a bonus issue of Captain Courageous from 1942.
Well, that sounds good.
Which, all viewers. I really like older comics because they're not kind of trapped by the idea of what comics are. They're basically just damaged people who need jobs writing about their war experiences generally through the filter of superheroes and space, which is actually quite interesting. But then once the language of comics establishes itself, everything just becomes kind of a repeat of the thing before and it gets quite boring. But there's a rawness, there's a primitive nature to them, which is kind of pure imagination, which is really interesting.
So, not a comic, but I follow a Facebook page called Low Life History, which I think, Dave, you're not a member of. It's really good. The chap who owns the page made a post recently about H.G. Wells and the Time Traveller. Did you see this, Dave?
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay, so he was making the point that H.G. Wells was actually the first person to come up with the idea in literature of time travel.
Right.
And I think the book was written in something like the 1890s. And it's kind of fascinating as an idea. It's a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
So people back in like the 1400s weren't thinking about, imagine what it would be like to travel 200 years time. There's no record.
Well, there was no Hitler, was there? They wouldn't go back and want to kill Hitler.
That's what everyone wants to do with time travel. I don't want to do that. I want to go back to 1996 actually and go to
Ibiza.
There was space in the hotel for us. Yeah, we could have actually.
We could all go.
Yeah.
Go as a trio, travel back in time, go to Ibiza in 96. Because it's 96 as well, you can't, it's not cheating if you do anything. And I'm sure us three would be so popular in Ibiza in 96 as well.
It's our age.
We could use our knowledge of the future to impress with it.
Yeah, they actually would be all over your guys' knowledge of 2000 AD.
Hey girls, we're time travelers. Do you know what 2020 is like? Shit. Enjoy your life now.
Yeah. Make the most of these groups because in 2020 there won't be any left.
Yeah.
It's going to be a global pandemic. Everyone's going to get a real bad type of flu. They'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they'll just carry on noshing off the bloke on the beach.
They'd be like, what can we do to prepare for the pandemic? It's like stock up on toilet roll, just in case.
Yeah, so you've got like a good 20 odd years to get your Andrex.
But going back to the time travel bit, I do wonder if perhaps that life changed, because obviously once you got to the Victorian industrial era, things were changing dramatically. So the previous generation was almost like a different world. But I suppose before that, thinking back to I'll go back 200 years, it probably would have been exactly the same. So there wasn't
exactly right. Exactly right. People would still be farming.
Industrial, it would have been interesting to think of what it was like.
Without regular published writing, the past ceases to be something that has a sort of collected structure you can look at. Whereas if it's just stories that you're passing down, and if it's objects, the concept of there being like generations and years before your existence become quite hard to understand when you can't look at physical items that capture that in that way. So I suppose the idea of time completely changes once you have books and things that allow you to read about things and look at the past and that existed in the past themselves. That makes sense.
So would you go back and kill Trump?
Why?
People don't seem to like him very much.
Back to 2019.
Yeah.
I'd probably go back and tell him not to bother standing because he won't enjoy it very much.
He's loving it.
He probably is loving the drama.
You can tell by his face, he's really loving it. He's not. I don't think it's much fun.
I'd probably go back in time and tell him not to sort of hug his daughter so much because
I've got to remove that bit now.
If I time travel, I'll go back 50 seconds and not have said that.
Yeah. I don't know what, if I could, would you rather, right, travel back in your own body or travel back as an individual? So rather than you actually traveling physically through time, your mind would travel into your younger self.
I'd rather stay with my current mind because I'm more mature.
Yeah, but your mind would go into the young body. So you travel back in time, but you would travel back into yourself.
Yeah, I'd be up for that. I probably would have more kebabs. Abuse myself a bit more. He's not
I'd probably try and have less kebabs.
Would you travel? Would you travel back as you now, or would you travel back into your own body, Dave?
I was slimmer then, so.
I was asking Dave.
Oh.
Yeah, I was slimmer then. I was still porky, but I'd definitely go back in my old body.
Yeah.
Less aches and pains.
That's true.
How about you, Julius? Would you go back to your old body?
I'm not answering stupid questions like that. Fuck off.
Maybe you ask him, it's fine.
Yeah.
You cut your hair, by the way, Julius?
I cut it.
Yeah. That shows.
That's why I'm the only one who doesn't look like a North Korean dictator in this chat.
No, but you look like a low T 40-something.
Well, it's because I drink coffee. I don't have any tea.
What you should do is put tea in your eyeballs with a dropper.
Yeah. Wouldn't it burn?
Yeah, you'd have to let the tea cool down.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what about you guys, but I don't know how people manage to drink hot tea. Like tea that was made just seconds ago, and they can start drinking.
Yeah, that gives you throat cancer as well. It's really bad for you.
So it does, yeah.
I really like hot tea, but I do worry about it because it is bad for you.
Yeah. I have to let cool for a bit.
Yeah, I need a good 10 minutes before I start sipping it.
Definitely.
I'm very sensitive like
or
that.
you can just make it with cold water and it's perfect. You can drink it straight away.
We'll just put a lot more milk in.
Do you put honey in your tea?
No, I think that's a waste of honey.
Yeah. You just eat a spoonful of that.
I'll put it in my porridge, but a spoonful of good
You
honey,
put tea in your porridge?
No, honey.
You put tea in your honey?
No, I put porridge in my honey.
Well, doesn't it get all the oats getting mixed in with it?
That's the point. Well,
Whenever you go to spread it on some toast. Do you have honey on toast? I like honey on toast. I like honey and then peanut butter on toast.
Not peanut butter because I'm very allergic to it. It's very bad for you, peanut butter.
Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't have that one. Some people are allergic to honey, you know.
I don't know anyone that's allergic to honey. But what I discovered was that vegans do not eat honey.
Why is that? 'Cause it's full of dead bees.
It's because when the beekeepers harvest the honey, they pull out the drawers of the apiaries where the bees have kept the hives, and it breaks the bees' legs.
Oh, really?
Mm.
So do they grow new legs?
I don't think so.
No.
But that's why vegans don't eat honey.
So do the bees die?
Probably some do. I know that they have a broken leg, and that can't be very pleasant.
No, because they don't have. They don't even
Maybe
have
they
like,
deserved it.
Well, it's karma. If you're a Buddhist, you'd be fine with it because they deserved it. Do you remember that time? I think it was Glenn Hoddle when he was manager of England, and I think he said something about a woman in a wheelchair saying, "Well, it's her karma,"
God.
and the newspapers rightly ripped into it bad.
It was something like you don't get into heaven unless you're a whole person, wasn't it? It's,
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's a really clever thing to say when you're a manager of England.
I don't
You've
know
got
who
to
the guy is.
you've got to have real shit for brains to come up with something like that when you're a public figure.
Yeah.
It's amazing the amount of stupid things that public figures say. It's almost like they're idiots, isn't it?
It really is, especially with social media too.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems that a politician can't get away with saying anything they like now on social media because it's reported on.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like us. We're talking here. Just imagine how many edits they're going to be with what we've said, and that they're being recorded live. They don't get to edit, so it must be difficult. We all say silly things.
I think when you're saying stuff casually, like a chat, like between friends like this, it's very easy to say stupid stuff. But
Yes,
I think when you're a public figure and you're tweeting, you have to sit down, think about what you're saying, and then actually type it. So there is
and
a
they
number
sit
of
down
moments
and they think of something anti-Semitic or racist, and then they press. Let's post that out into the world and see how this is clever. They don't. You think you would look through it and go, "All right, I'm a terrible human being. I've had this thought.
Yeah.
Let's not share this with the world."
Yes, exactly.
It's very
And then
hard.
they double down when they're being interviewed and blame something else for why they posted it.
Yeah.
I love
Oh, yeah, that's it. I was having a hyperglycemic attack at the time.
Yeah, I had no tea in my eyes.
Yeah. I had too much
I
vodka.
had 2 spoons of honey in my porridge.
Yeah.
From garlic beer. It's from the garlic farm on the Isle of Wight, and it's brewed with black garlic.
Is it nice?
Shall we do a taste test?
All right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Go on then, get it opened.
Would it be of any interest at all though to your viewers?
I don't know. Just drink it. Go on.
Actually, I've got a bit of a thirst on, to be honest with you. I'm going to go open it up. Are you recording, Helen?
Yeah. Where you going?
I'm going to the kitchen to get a bottle opener.
Oh, just use your teeth.
Not after I broke my teeth on those pork scratchings. Oh.
Did those pork scratchings are?
Oh shit. It's gone all over the gaff.
What about the beer? I never knew
Yeah.
you'd be that excited about some beer.
Bloody hell. Popped all over the place. So this is my beer bottle opener. It's a little Japanese lady, a geisha.
Oh.
Yep.
Is that a name, is that?
Sorry?
Is that a name? Geisha?
Yes. So here's the garlic beer. It's from the garlic farm on the Isle of Wight. See that the head there is pretty
It's a bit of garlic.
foamy. Do you know what
Snort it.
there is in fact a hint of garlic. It's obviously not strong, it is just a hint. So if you're expecting a little strong
You're going to eyeball
garlicky
that.
taste. Oh, not one of those. Yeah, it's all right. I'm not going to eyeball it.
What's it taste like?
It tastes like lager with some garlic in it, like chopped garlic in it in your pint.
Like if you have a lager whilst eating a kebab.
It probably would actually be nice with a curry or a kebab, yeah.
I should put little bits of chicken in it as well.
We should get Peter Kay to do a video, an advert, and go garlic beer.
Oh God, can you just imagine?
Pork
Just
pie!
imagine.
Pork pie! It says pork pie!
The fact that he's made his career on that and misheard song lyrics is actually astonishing.
Vol-au-vents. Mind you, he's owned it because you can't hit any of those words without thinking about Peter Kay now.
It's true. It's absolutely true. I think it's yeah. What's the
Completely crashed the garlic bread industry.
And the big light on.
Sorry.
Put
So
the
not
big
big
light
light.
on.
Big light.
I like Peter Kay. I think he's genuinely brilliant to do so well with such, sort of standard kind of material. It's relatable but really funny.
Oh.
I like him when he's not dragging up and trying to be a singer.
He does that, does he?
He is a singer. More
Really?
number ones than you.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. How can you criticise him when you've not done it yourself?
What's that? Sorry, done a number one.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Well,
number
in
one.
that case, you can't say anything about anyone. Shall we get on to the reviews, do you think?
Let's go for the review. The Magazine, issue 421. The Judge Dredd Megazine.
Oh, I regret that garlic beer now.
Your breath stinks now. It's disgusting.
It tastes, my mouth feels horrible.
I should never have got that smell-o-vision attachment for my computer.
By the way, Julius, you're very blurry.
Am I? Have you tried wiping your glasses?
Bit blurry, not that bad though.
No, it's an improvement actually. Yeah, you stay that way. Okay, so who's first? Julius, you wanna?
The first story is Judge Dredd, the titular character of the magazine, Judge Dredd Megazine, with a story written by Rory McGonville drawn by Stas Johnson and Jim Boswell. I should. My handwriting is terrible. It's that bad. With letters by Annie Parkhouse. So we are introduced to the world of Judge Dredd for all you Judge Dredd fans. A 20-whatever century super cop. And in this story, Judge Calvin comes from Euro City or something, and he's after a crook called Derek Crenshaw. And Derek Crenshaw is an evil man who has killed, allegedly killed, there's been no trial, 6 badges, which are other judges. He is an expert in ambiotronics, which is never explained, especially quantum ethics as well. It's at pains to explain that that's the case, neither of which are explained. I googled them, I couldn't find out what they were. So he's kind of the John McAfee of the Judge Dredd world in a way, because he's a technological person who's been accused of murder. So and now he's on the run in Mega City 1, and this Euro judge is here to try to capture him and bring him back because his body was killed by this ambiotronics person, and then it leads to a chase in which they instantly find the guy, and then a robot judge kills him by blowing up his ship. And then it's all as it seems, because then it's revealed that they didn't kill him in the ship. They just killed all the other people, and they beamed him out, and now he works for Justice Department in their ambiotronics quantum ethics department. And the Euro City judge goes back being angry, thinking they're stupid, but really they got the better of him at the end.
It's not very strong, is it?
I thought it was quite interesting. Well, there's a few things I've got to sort of bring up here. First off, I got a big shout out to Wooly Russell, who accused me of looking bored all throughout the reviews. And yeah, that's going to continue today.
That's just your face.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I've just got a miserable face, but I thought I did try to be more animated during the chatting where we was enjoying ourselves. Now we're on to the review. Back to normal. I thought it was quite interesting on the first page where they say how he's from Eurocity and his name's Calvin, because Eurocity, Kieran wouldn't know, but that's based around, I believe, in Germany. And it's quite interesting that they use the name Calvin, which is quite a famous German person from the past with regards to religion. It's decent bait and switch, but it was so obvious what was going to happen. You know, the art was nice. I like the art. Colouring, I thought was good.
Kieran might remember this, but there's a story called Our Man in Hondo, which is a much better done version of a kind of similar plot twist in a way.
That could be one for a future review, because I enjoyed Our Man in Hondo.
Yeah, and Kieran would love the racism as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's some fantastic.
Maybe crying.
Xenophobia in that. Yeah, it was okay, but it certainly wasn't as strong as last month's Dredd strip. Yeah, it was a by the numbers story.
Does anyone know what ambiotronics and quantum ethics are?
I think
they're made up.
But they're just made up words. It's not like based on. I couldn't find them based on anything. And it's not explained in the story.
It's set in the 22nd century, though, so they've probably got new words for stuff that mean bollocks then as well.
But they're not explained in the story what they are.
No.
So I didn't know.
In fact, there's 3 frames in the story that are just totally rubbish, pointless, taking up space, of where the judge who gives the briefing apparently has got Crenshaw's specialism wrong or something.
Yeah.
And
where it just shows how stupid they are.
Yeah, but it seems like it's poor use of space.
Yeah.
And why do I really care that someone's got their the name wrong.
Which to
I mean,
establish, the point of this is, if you don't know, is to establish the personality of this character who's just been, I assume it's just been introduced, this Euro 6, Judge Calvin, as someone who is really annoyed at the Mega City Justice Department. He thinks they're amateurs. And then they spend quite a lot of time establishing this, and it has absolutely no emphasis, link to the plot really in any way, apart from the fact that he goes away empty-handed.
Yeah,
So there's quite a lot of time spent on him.
Yeah, I think it's just to make him look so much better than them, but in reality they're doing they're baiting and switching all along.
Well, he's not better because I don't know. I've worked with Americans before, and sometimes they are quite stupid. But if you spend your whole time in the meeting trying to call them out and getting angry with them, they're not going to work very well with you.
But do you think that the American judges were deliberately being incompetent to lull him into a false sense of security so they could steal away Crenshaw?
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that they've put them all in what looks like a room with all cracks on the wall to give that briefing. And there's only like 12 judges in Justice Department who are involved in it, rather than just doing it through like their bike or something, which would have saved time. They're all like lounging around in this room, asking questions like a cop precinct.
Do you know, I dare to say that maybe we're overthinking this.
I don't think so. I think they've put that effort in.
I dare say you're overthinking the plot. It's not a Russian novel. It's certainly not as complex.
We'll be talking about this in 20 years' time.
But what gets me here, though, is that there is this thing there isn't there of sort of two professional organisations that work side by side in different places, where one of them goes to the other, and there's like, oh, you guys do this wrong, or you guys are not as good as us. It's just something that's overdone, isn't it?
Well, what's kind of annoying is that if you ever worked with organisations, because this sort of cop trope is common, but it's something that's not doesn't seem to have any basis in reality, because when organisations work together, they're generally quite respectful and have to sort of get on to work well together. I mean, one of the reasons people get promoted to those kind of jobs is because they're good at communicating with other people. You don't get these loose cannons coming in and causing trouble like this. It just seems, it comes out in media and comics and everything like that. But it's just, I tell you, I find it unrealistic in this super cop story that this guy isn't like a people pleaser.
I think it's a bit of a cack-handed trope. It's sort of formulaic. I mean, to read other people that have written Dredd now, that I've become more familiar with the writers, you can actually sort of see who's got more skill in making not just realistic dialogue, but dialogue that fits in with the character and the story. Mm. I think in this case, what I've seen so far is fairly ham-fisted and clumsy.
And once again, it does
the bait
that
and switch.
Sorry, Kieran.
No, I was saying the bait and switch, that was a predictable thing as well.
Do you think if you could travel back in time, we'd go back and kill the script?
No, I wouldn't. I'd leave it. I'd let it run. It does a thing that a lot of the writers do. They're not very interested in writing Judge Dredd, so they're writing about another character. Yeah. But the other characters aren't interesting because you're reading a story about Judge Dredd. Write about Judge Dredd in the story.
I suppose if I was a writer and I was looking at my artistic integrity to make things interesting, you kind of want to expand upon Judge Dredd and the universe, which is why when actually we come to Blunt, I actually in fact have a newfound appreciation of it, believe it or not, on the third reading.
We'll get to that soon.
Yeah. It's that how do you do anything new about Dredd that's kind of interesting?
Very difficult, and I think that's why there are arguments to rest the story for a while. And because people that are writing it just aren't really very interested in writing stories about Judge Dredd. What more can you write about him? He's a very one-note character. To be able to do anything with it, you've got to kind of stick to. He's got quite a defined personality, that makes writing stories about him very difficult.
Sure, but if there is a formula, I think the skill is being able to stick to the formula, but then to perhaps subvert it and make it interesting.
Exactly.
You saw a lot of that in sort of hard-boiled fiction from the 40s,
Yeah.
where there were very clear tropes and formulas, but they actually could be subverted.
I read a detective story about an egg, so that was hard-boiled fiction.
One of the problems with any Judge Dredd strip as well, you've got to have a decent villain in it. If you haven't got an exciting villain, you've got nothing to play off on a Judge Dredd, because Judge Dredd is such a one-note character who's fun. I mean, he's, we're here discussing him, he's great, but there's not a lot to him other than who he's taking down. And if he's not taking down anyone interesting, the strip tends to be less interesting.
I mean, the villain of this was exciting. It was Derek Crenshaw, who we never see, who was a specialist in ambiatronics, which we don't know anything about, or more specifically, quantum ethics, which we don't know anything about. And doing that was clearly a crime somehow, because it led to him killing a load of judges and escaping to Mega City 1. So those are clearly outlawed things, whatever they are. But then Mega City 1 is secretly developing weapons or maybe medicine, I don't know what they are, in those areas.
So reading the strip, though, actually towards the end, and that's kind of an interesting point there, Julius, is that so they're wanting to develop a technology which would give them an edge over a rival.
Yeah.
Which again, it's a common trope, but I think it's a good one. You can go you can use it for quite a few things, and you can go to lots of different places with it.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what's next in that regard, and how they use that.
And also, they have to keep him on a tight leash because he's a psychopath and yet is an expert in ambiatronics and quantum ethics. So I don't know how he's managed to balance his interest in psychopathy and quantum ethics to become such a great expert.
What's his name again?
His name is Derek Crenshaw.
That's a well-known psychopath name, that.
I wonder what his psychopathic traits are. We don't know because we don't ever see him in the story.
I think it's probably playing folk music too loud.
Maybe he'll come back in a later story. Maybe back next prog. We don't know.
Maybe
he'll never be mentioned again. Should we go to the next story?
Yeah.
Oh,
we
haven't
done the cover, Julius.
Oh, yeah, okay, let's do the cover.
Yeah, it's a Simon Colby cover from the Vigilance, and it's lovely art. It's very dark. I'm not entirely sure it's fitting with the Judge Dredd magazine, but yeah, it's nice art.
You make a good point about it being quite dark to look at. If I were looking at this on a shelf on a magazine rack for the first time, I probably wouldn't be that engaged in buying it. Also, the fact that I'm seeing a guy that's on the floor with his like disco glasses on, I probably wouldn't buy it.
It's Kanye West, isn't it? Back in like 12 years ago.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a character at the front, I think, like a troll, who's almost completely covered my text. And then there's a character at the back who's just absorbed into the colour. I hate the colouring of this so much. The blending of like the light is just difficult to look at. And it looks just like a big blob.
Could they not put the barcode on the back?
No.
Is that a magazine thing where your barcode has to be on the front?
I don't know.
Anyway, it just seems to take up space.
They could keep the barcode in the same place, and every artist could incorporate it into the artwork somehow. Why not?
The white colours on the actual Judge Dredd magazine didn't it as well? It could have done with maybe being in red or something like that.
Yeah, it's just a really. I mean, with this comic as well, it's in a bag. It comes in a bag, so they're selling it based on that cover. So the cover, I think, has to be really strong. It's well drawn, I guess, but it's just not. It just doesn't grab me. Maybe grab someone else. Someone likes monsters. Monster. All right, so we move on.
Yeah.
So, story number. Oh, we've got first we have an intro, a text intro to what you would have missed previously, but it doesn't actually really. Summary of the publishing of the Vigilant comic, and then says it was a decision by publishing manager Ben Smith of the Vigilant to finish in the magazine. It doesn't explain that decision was based on low sales or whether they thought it was artistically the right way to go to finish a story that's been published elsewhere in another comic. But there you go. We are now presented with the end of the Vigilant story.
It's a real shame as well for people who haven't read it, because I quite enjoyed the Vigilant. I can see why people didn't, but you know, to finish it off in here is just really sad.
I've not read the 2 issues of the Vigilant that have been previously published, so I came to this raw, as they say. Dave?
Yeah, well, I've read them. I've got all the issues.
No, you're covering this one.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, basically, it finishes it off with the villains look like they're going to be in control, and yeah, it doesn't give you enough information for the people who haven't read the ones before. So you've got a situation where a character is coming in from nowhere, it's giving all the relevant information to finish everything off, and a group of villains appear that haven't been in it before, which isn't great. And then the villains get together and get defeated really, really easily. There's a nice little bit where the chief villain is mind tricked and hypnotized into believing that he's actually won. So at the end of it, he's wandering around in his own universe. But yeah, it's everything about it struck me as being rushed, and it's a shame because it could have been very good. Lovely art though, once again. Dark, but yeah, colouring was superb. Yeah.
You think that with all these kind of text pages they've got in there that explain to you how good the Vigilant is, never mentioning that it didn't sell, and also explain like the origins of the Vigilant, where it came from. So they could just have one page that told new readers who hadn't read it before what had happened in the previous 2 Vigilant comics, so they could actually read this story and know what had happened beforehand. Maybe even 2 pages with some illustrations from it as well throughout, just to bring new readers up to speed.
Well, one of the problems with it is this part is now going to be collected with the others in a full like sort of mini trade paperback collection. Whereas I get why you do that financially, you might get a few extra sales. They'd have been better off putting the bits that had already been as the floppy this month instead of reprinting old origin stories of the Leopard of Lime Street, so on, which was interesting to me. But if they could have put the original 2 parts in the floppy, at least the people who've not read it before could have read the whole thing together. And I think that you'd have got more out of it at least.
Well, I thought that's what they were going to do. I thought they were going to reprint it in the floppy, came with it, but
yeah,
no. I can understand that might annoy people that had already bought the Vigilant and they were then reprinting it already. But for someone who is paying, was it $6.99, $5.99? Can't remember what it cost. Let me have a look. It's so small. $5.99. Someone paid $5.99 for the Judge Dredd Megazine. Being dumped into the end part of a story is a bit of a cheek, really. I know there's the expectation that everyone who reads 2000 AD reads everything else, but...
But the problem is, if everyone who read 2000 AD reads everything else, the Vigilant would have sold enough copies not to be shoehorned into this.
So clearly it didn't, so they needed something in.
Yeah. What did you think of the Vigilant, Kieran?
Whilst I read it, to me, because I've got no investment, much of the story was a dispassionate list of people that were part of a team that I didn't know anything about. I
found that too, totally. So much of the story was put to this plot point that someone's going to betray us. Here are all the characters. I'm like, I don't care. I have no.
Yeah, that's it. And because I didn't really know who the characters were, I didn't see the point in listing them.
Yeah, and the final panel was two of the characters, two of the publications that the Treasury of British Comics are putting out as well. So it's like a blatant advertisement. Yeah, Steel Claw. What is it? From what I read, I kind of got the gist of what it's about, and the concept is really interesting. And if I had the opportunity to read stories from the beginning, I certainly would. The concept is just really appealing.
Well, my main problem with it is not that I complain about stuff, but apart from being dumped into the middle of the story, and the story structure was fine. It was structurally, it was okay. It had it was a continuation of a previous story, obviously, but it had a conclusion in it. But because it's a team book, and you have these characters who all individually have their stories. None of those stories, none of those real powers or anything are expressed throughout the story. It's basically just a group of people in generally normal clothes. It looks incredibly boring, the character designs. Just kind of running around and going, oh, we're fighting a big demon. And then it kind of ends. And then it goes, oh, but it's not the end, because we've got all these other characters that are utterly boring. And we're going to introduce them in a comic that's not going to sell as well. I mean, what's the point? If it was just a story that sort of use the specific attributes, when you have a team, the team is kind of brought together by the specific attributes of the characters working together. So that's why the Fantastic Four works. They each have an individual power that the others don't have to allow the plots for them to use their powers to get out of that. But when you just bring a group of disparate characters together and go, oh, they're a team now, and they've got to fight a big demon, it's like none of what they have is relevant to what they're fighting and how the plot develops. Because the Fantastic Four villains are relevant to the Fantastic Four. They're matched against their powers, so they're specific villains for that story. Which is why the Fantastic Four, for example, don't fight. They fight Galactus. They don't fight the Scorpion, for example, because that is a character matched to Spider-Man's powers. That's how it works. But this was just like literally like they'd thrown a load of people together and said, and here's a big monster for you to fight. The guy from Legend, basically, I think he was. And
well, I think you're in trouble now, Julius.
Why is that?
Because I think that Dave here liked the story so much, and he actually hates you now.
He's got a look of hate on him. Hate stroke balls.
He actually sent me a private message saying what a prick you are, and he hates you.
Is that related to this? Oh, right. He does that all the time. He does it to everyone.
He's always bad mouthing you, mate.
He looks at all mutual friends and adds them into a group.
This by mistake.
He sometimes adds me in the groups.
Just slagging you off.
Yeah.
He's always doing it.
Sorry, I'm just...
Dave, you might disagree because you have more of an investment in the other two issues.
I enjoyed it. It was a good end. However, every time I was reading it for everyone else as well. I was thinking, anyone who hasn't read this before is going to just go, what the hell is going on? And that took me out of it. Whereas if I'd have read it actually in an issue, I would have really enjoyed it. I can understand why people didn't like some of the artwork because of its darkness, but I didn't have an issue with that. I'm a big fan of the 1960s and 70s British characters, so I didn't have an issue with any of those being in it. But all I kept thinking was, if this is a way to bring a new generation of readers into something that's from the past, it's not the way to do it. it just didn't work in that respect. I couldn't help but think anyone who was coming to this cold would be going, well, why am I supposed to like this character who's only in 2 panels but was supposed to be really popular years ago? Or who's this villain who's supposed to be absolutely fantastic but they get rid of just by someone hypnotising him in a panel? And even reading the frontispiece to it, where they said that was it Ben Smith, was it, who it was a decision at on a sort of on a financial level as to why it wasn't in. You know, Matt Smith's the editor. He should have said, no, we should push for this. But it might not have sold many copies. But if you've had the people investing in it before, either cancel it completely and just not bother. Yeah. Don't shoehorn it into the Judge Dredd magazine, which doesn't sell a great amount anyway. Because for me, I'd be thinking, well, why am I reading this? It's not going to make me go out and buy the other 2 issues, which you can't get anyway.
Maybe that's the plan, to make people go out and buy the other 2 issues.
It might be, but I still think it was sad.
I tell you what they could even have done. They could have said, you buy the magazine, inside there's a code printed in the magazine. You use that code and you get the 2 issues at like £1 each or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been a great idea.
Yeah, so at least you can read the rest of the story and from buying the magazine. It just seems disrespectful to the reader, is how I view it as.
Well, it annoyed me because I'd spend £10 on buying the first 2 issues, then I have to read it in the magazine, and it's
a model.
It's using up space in the magazine.
Yeah.
So this point that you guys are actually talking about here is really interesting. It's something that I was planning to raise with you about inputting a code to catch up with previous issues and previous stories.
Yeah.
Now, for someone that's totally new, really, to 2000 AD, I frequently felt very lost when I jumped into the magazine because I don't know what the characters are like or anything. I don't know where they've come from, or even the plot I actually would struggle with. I just wish there was a way that I could pay a fee and then be able to look at previous issues, or actually just do a search and look at previous stories and read from then on. I think as a module, that would make a lot more money.
You can pay me, I'll tell you.
It's a shame that they don't have sort of anywhere where people might review the magazine, so that people could have an idea in the future of what was going on.
There's this.
Oh yeah.
There's that, but I'm on about if someone could pay something like, I don't know, £10 or £20 a year, or £5 a month, or £10 a month, to have an access pass to all of the stories.
There's too many stories. They can't
business model.
They make most of their money through reprinting the same stories over and over again, so they couldn't include them in some kind of all access thing.
But then they might get just so many more subscribers paying monthly.
Part of the problem is that they don't have scans of a lot of the stuff. So even if they introduced a digital archive, I think Marvel have that now, don't they? They've introduced a digital archive where people can pay a subscription and go on and read whatever they want. It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a really good method, the Marvel one.
And I think that even if Rebellion did this, especially with the treasury of British comics that they've got, they made that available to people and then did small print run, expensive hardback books akin to Lars of Mars here, where they reprint stuff in a quality volume that would not be available elsewhere. Admittedly, some of these PSR books have got terrible printing, so I'd be very careful which ones you buy. But if they did something like that, then I think that would be a good way of doing it, and a lot of people would buy both. So
yeah, so you could, and I think something like that would, if anything, increase readership. You get whole new audiences that would have access, and you wouldn't get folk like me that are somewhat intimidated of knowing sort of where to start, or sort of that feeling when you're jumping into a story and you're lost.
Well, it's a common question you see on the fan groups, that where do I start? I mean, Judge Dredd's got a 40-odd year history. What story do you start with? You might pick up one of the terrible stories. Yes.
Well, someone made a post about this recently, I think, on the Megaverse group, and there were so many ideas.
Group. That must be a group worth joining.
where people were mentioning so many different stories where to get started from. And me being a newbie, it was a valuable question.
Yeah. You could just ask me out.
Well, you or Alan's had some good ideas for where I should start.
That's true.
America, that was good.
Yeah,
Origins,
and we'll be doing some more of his suggestions in an upcoming episode.
I'm actually surprised, by the way, that no one mentioned, and I actually forgot to mention it in the Judge Dredd story in the first panel that said, "Oh, Grud, what a shithole."
Oh yeah, that was really annoying.
Mm. You can just imagine someone being really smug, going, "That's my jibe at Trump."
I've got a swear word in.
Okay, well, we've got the comic that roared next, an article about the origins of the Vigilant again, or more specifically about the comic Lion, which spends a lot of the article talking about comics that are not Lion, to the point that I ended up just skipping it because it was going all over the place.
I thought it was quite an interesting article for people of a certain age, but once again, it's not very accessible to the new reader.
It's all right. It just seemed a bit, like I say, all over the place. Blunt, Kieran, you're gonna take the lead on this one.
Yeah. So this is what I think the third installment of Blunt I've read, third episode, if you will, and it's only sort of now that I'm sort of getting an idea about what the story's sort of really about, fully about, and I also understand that this is the third saga.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, so of course I didn't really know this. I didn't realise there was such a history behind it. So my understanding of what's happening so far, and I've not researched into it because I want to have as fresh an idea as possible as a new reader.
Lazy.
No, not at all, because a new reader buying the magazine is not going to go online and search for what happened in Blunt in the last three sagas.
I would. Just
yeah,
saying.
but so as I understand it, a ship has come and people are trying to flee the planet of the psychically linked organic matter, the psychic linked flora and fauna of the planet is trying to destroy these human interlopers, which is an old-fashioned trade. That's a trade that's been done 1,000 times before. Because, of course, humans are a virus that needs to be wiped out by organic matter.
Mother Earth.
Yeah, it's Mother Earth. In fact, I remember watching an episode of Batman, the old one in the 60s, and Poison Ivy was there, and that story was being done then. So, but anyway, so the story opens up with their ship, and in the cargo hold there is this great big animal-less, leafy, vegetable matter with horns and boils and looks like snot and sap. And so I'm going, oh. And so we dig a bit deeper and it... Oh! Because that's what you're going to do when you come up to this massive, horrible thing. Oh. And so, of course, they're actually trying to send uplift. But looking at the drawing, is it me, or do you think that he was modelled on Ron Perlman?
He's very Ron Perlman-esque.
Yes. But really, very, very close, isn't it?
It could be a member of the Lee Marvins, couldn't he?
The last two times that we talked about Blob, one is this meditating robot who later claims in this episode to have some insight into the issue. And of course, he's got insight, and that's written in bold because he's been meditating.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Just fuck off. You don't get a Buddhist meditating robot who gets what's called a jhana, or wisdom.
You do in the future.
A very deep insight. And then, of course, later on, Blunt says how he once did this massive mushroom trip and he saw everything take place. Now, some of you may know this, but I'm actually very fond of organic psychedelics like mushrooms. I have the odd heroic dose every few months, purely for medicinal reasons, I might add. And you do get flashes of insight through taking them, but it's just you learning what you're already thinking about, really. That's what that is. So you've got this half man, half ape that has taken a load of mushrooms, and he's had an insight into everything that happens. And then there's this robot, this meditating robot that's like, yeah, I know what you mean. I've got some insight into the matter myself. And throughout this, I'm going, oh, for fuck's sake. But then I realise not everyone out there meditates, not everyone's a Buddhist, not everyone is a massive mushroom head like I am. So I have to give it a bit of leeway. But in the story, as a narrative, I have to give it some credit. It is trying to expand upon Dredd's universe, which I think is a really interesting thing to do. In order to keep the universe fresh, it's kind of interesting to build new characters and new stories around it. I think that's a good move. And it gives an artist free reign then to do new and exciting stuff, to test their own skills and to see what lands. And the other thing about the artwork here, which I think adds to the story, and this is why I have to give it like a new understanding, is that the artwork is actually psychedelic. It has a psychedelic kind of tint to it, which I find really interesting, especially considering sort of flora and fauna, sometimes having psychedelic properties to it. That's kind of interesting. Sometimes the art sets my teeth on edge somewhat. There's bits of it where I'm like, ooh, that doesn't sit well with me at all. Like a bit later on, Ilya, is that the girl that was being rescued? I mean, her head's in a right to a barnet. It's just bloody ridiculous. Maybe that's because of fires or something, I don't know, but it looks like she's got vitiligo. She looks like a prettier Simon Weston.
It's the second Simon Weston comment I'm going to have to cut.
Why? The man's a hero. So, yeah, so it turns out that this meditating droid and Blunt are just going to work together to sort all this shit out. Machine overrides plant life in terms of violence and destruction, so hopefully they're going to win over that and escape. That's what I got from it.
Now you mention all the psychedelics and the meditation,
yeah,
the women with cool haircuts. I wonder if everyone who makes this lives in Brighton.
You would think so.
I think with Bukut's artwork, with like what you said, it's very psychedelic. I always find that with his colours anyway. It's definitely the writing to his strengths. Because his artworks quite often looks like this. But you can see he's building towards the end, because I believe this one's the final act. So yeah, it's tying everything up. Yeah, it's all right. Certainly less annoying than the last couple of parts.
Yeah, at least
I found the last two. Yeah. Sorry.
At least we didn't have another rehash of the same DNA link.
No, yeah, I've got nothing to add to that. I enjoyed Blunt this month. It's certainly my favourite part out of the last three. Things were happening in it, moving towards a finale. Yeah, worked well.
I'll tell you what, I'm actually starting to get really into Lawless now that I've sort of caught up with what's happening.
Should we do Lawless?
We'll move on to Lawless.
Dave?
I think with Lawless, Kieran, you'd really enjoy getting the first two books.
Okay.
They really add to it. I mean, don't get me wrong, because Dan Abnett's such a good writer that it's accessible regardless of when you drop into it. To be honest, you really will pick up some really good stuff from the first two parts.
Yes. Well, I actually enjoyed this even this bit. I actually really enjoyed it, and even though I don't really know what's happening in the story, as like a one-off bit.
Yeah, well, you got the town of like Bedrock, and it really does build up the beginnings of it and how it's sort of developed into its own little territory.
Is it continuation of the Flintstones, do you know? Just far in the future?
Could be. She does actually. The Meta Lawson does look a bit like Fred's wife.
She's going to be a far future descendant of Wilma. Fred will come in as an uplift. He's now an uplift, Fred. With a pun name, it'd be called something like Fred the Stair. Something like that, like Fred Astaire. Anyway, carry on.
That was an awkward moment for the fans.
Sorry, all for you.
Engineered that.
The numbers doubled.
Yeah, we're doing well. Yeah, I'll get my mum to watch it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it, one thing that annoys me in comic books or even books themselves is when they do a musical number. I always find that really annoying. Yeah, they did it. It worked to a degree, but yeah, it was annoying. Continuing with the story of Meta's past is catching up with her now, and she's confused as to what's really going on. And it's all along she's been sort of like trying to keep the peace with everybody, and now she does think that the alien race that is it the Zind? Is it? They may well be manipulating her more than she imagined. So she's now having to go to the SJS, who are the sort of like the secret service of the judges, who sort of inform on everyone and judge the judges themselves. And she's trying to
like internal affairs.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. That's the word I was trying to think of. And she's trying to work with them, although there's a moment in it where you do think maybe they are in on it as well, because there's a sort of like long look into the middle distance by one of the SJS, who specifically took a helmet off just to look more sinister. And then a mysterious stranger turns up in town where Rondo, the sort of gunslinger, he's told that he's a bad guy. So it looks like they're building some more protagonists coming into it. And yeah, that was pretty much it. It was some nice little character background stuff. I can't remember her name. The female sort of like sidekick to Meta Lawson looks like she got dressed up for no reason at all. She got dolled up in a nice stockings and suspenders outfit, and then the guy hardly noticed her at all. So she got a bit upset about that. But yeah, it was a quiet episode. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Really good. And the art was just ridiculously good. It's flawless. From Lawless.
I see an internal affairs expert a few years back. What's my waterworks? A bit messed up.
Yeah. And then what?
I was fine.
Oh, that's good then. Yeah, I used to actually work for the Professional Standards Bureau in a police force.
Right. Judging the judges.
No, just making sure that the complaints against the police were genuine, legit, and that they didn't put police cuffs hard on someone, and that they weren't corrupt and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Were you ever asked to bury the information and sort of like?
No, never. No, there's nothing like that. Sadly, it was all pretty open, genuine, kind of normal stuff. I remember there was actually one case where this PC was suddenly taking really nice holidays, and his wife was suddenly buying really nice fur coats and things, which is all a bit suspect. That was the only sort of obvious. Oh, at the casino, obviously, that's where he won all his money. Yeah. Gambling.
Did you ever tell someone they can't handle the truth because you hadn't finished the report?
No, but I'd like to. That actually would have been really good, but I'm afraid it's much more boring than that. There's no code reds. It was all really boring stuff.
Do you know my dad was actually on a panel of
Here we go.
Was on a panel that reviewed the abilities to decide who was the best Lord Justice within this country. So that's who judges the judges.
Mm.
He also did a course about making delicious dog treats, so it was fine for him to come in and say the dog ate his homework.
That was good. I enjoyed that. For the full fans out there, I'm sure that's a treat for them.
The dog treat.
Good to say. Oh God, another pause.
That'll give you pause for thought, won't it? You're barking up the wrong tree with that one.
What a tale.
That joke was a bit rough.
Oh God.
It was a mutt.
I think the fans ought to, like I say, pay us money to go to Las Vegas. I can't see it
Do you
happening.
think we could set up a Patreon where the payers not to do episodes? That'd be quite good.
That'd be, I'd go
Oh,
for that.
they
Certainly
should
save
pay
me
us
time.
to awkward silence.
Ideal job, that would.
Save
Paid
me
not to
time
do.
having to edit Kieran.
You don't edit that much stuff out there, do you, really?
Yes.
It's only about-
I
it's
edited
about-
about 4 hours out last episode.
There's about 6 times that you could have got us sued and finished, Kieran,
Yeah.
today. So that's not too bad.
I'm already finished.
I don't think anyone's watching what we're doing. I don't think they care. I don't think Elon Musk cares. In fact, he'd probably be all over this as like a fan. Now that he knows I do a lot of mushrooms every now and then.
Mushrooms. Anyway, let's move on to the floppy. The free graphic novel. Free graphic novel, Vigilant Origins. And more vigilant. If you didn't know who the Vigilant were before you picked up this issue of the magazine, I tell you what, now you do. And now we're going to look at the origins of the Vigilant, which is a collection of old stories hand-picked for their relevance to the main Vigilant story, including Dr. Sin, The Leopard of Lime Street, which if you've never seen Spider-Man, is good, Death Wish, Dr. Mesmer's Revenge, and I know you're getting excited already hearing just these titles, Von Hoffman's Invasion, sounds painful, but that's it. So you get those all presented in glorious black and white 2-page segments for your reading pleasure. What did you both think of this? Did you enjoy this? Oh, and there's also, if you may have noticed, a section of characters on the cover who don't appear in that comic either.
Yeah. I enjoy. I mean, I like them because it's my cup of tea. I mean, there's some great Eric Badbury artwork, some Vanu artwork on Death Wish, some superb stuff. But yeah, it's just I'd feel if I was, I'd feel
Stories
cheated.
are terrible, aren't they? They're
Yeah,
terrible.
Absolutely. If that's handpicked, I'd like to know who picked them. I'm assuming someone who's blind.
It really made me appreciate the writing in the magazine more after reading these stories.
Maybe that's what they did. That could have been a reason. Like, you know, we're gonna stick Dan Abnett, who's like one of the greatest 2000 AD writers ever, and we'll just afterwards we'll follow it up with this. You can cleanse your palate on this part.
I enjoyed Leopard from Lime Street. I thought that was fun, but it was Spider-Man. I was just reading Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I mean, once again, you got great. I mean, it's great art. It's basically Spider-Man, isn't it? And it's good fun. I mean, I enjoyed reading it in Buster back in the day. So yeah.
And I read Death Wish, and I thought, I suppose it's not bad. It's like from these sort of 50s, 60s British. And I looked, it's 1980 that story was made.
Yeah.
It's the same time as Halo Jones, isn't it? 1980.
Not far off. Yeah.
So it's a bit. I could see why, when I was a kid, I never read these stories because they were just. They were at a level. Was Leopard at Lime Street in Buster?
Yeah.
At one point, I think it was in there as.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But you're going back to. I mean, I was enjoying Leopard at Lime Street before I was enjoying 2000 AD properly.
Because late 20s.
Yeah, well, I could read Leopard for a younger audience. So, like, I was getting more out of it then.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, I moved on to I was reading 2000 AD, but I wasn't getting as much out of it. So, yeah, I enjoyed the Leopard at Lime Street. But
I felt all the characters. Needed a race and gender swap for them to be relevant in the current age.
I think it's interesting. That's an interesting point. But what I got from this is the Leopard from Lime Street. So it's half boy, half leopard.
Yeah. He got injected with a radioactive syrup, turned him into a leopard.
It's smuggled
It's
into
a bit much, isn't it? It's a bit much, isn't it?
What's unbelievable about that?
The fact that if I was to be half boy, half leopard, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be out sort of solving crime or doing any of that kind of shit.
Yeah. What would you be doing?
You'd be sitting at home licking your bollocks all day, wouldn't you?
Pretty much.
He'd be prowling around looking for cats in heat. That's what he would be doing.
That's it. Yeah, being half boy, half teenage boy.
That kid is going to end up in prison, isn't he?
I mean,
when that kid hits puberty, he is going to end up in prison.
Yeah, exactly.
Just think of the grannies you could scare, though, if he was half leopard.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's going to be sort of like climbing trees, looking for like birds' windows and stuff like that, and wanking himself into a frenzy.
Maybe it's him that became the Brighton cat killer.
There's a bit in here, in Leopard from Lime Street, where he says he's going to beat his guardian or something.
Oh yeah, when
Billy uses his powers to avoid a beating from his guardian.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lived with, was it his uncle? I think he lived with his uncle, and his uncle got
He's
vile.
just crazy.
Yeah.
And what's even worse, this is 1977 as well. He's writing a story about his abusive uncle.
I think you're encouraged to beat your children then, though, aren't you?
Stop them becoming snowflakes. It was, I suppose, that once you didn't have to repair children to go and die in war, beating them from a young age wasn't necessary anymore, was it?
No, that's it. Yeah, there's no real point in it. I mean, I was never slapped as a kid. Probably shows.
You were never slapped as a kid?
No, never been.
Oh wow.
Yeah, definitely shows.
Were you beaten as a child, Dave?
Not enough.
Not enough. No. The threat was always there. There was always a slipper. It was never used, but there was always the threat that if I misbehaved, I might get one.
If you were to have been slapped or hit by a slipper, would you have done that thing of putting a magazine or newspaper down your pants?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Stick the yellow pages down the Harris.
You could get those butt implants, couldn't you, to stop it hurting?
Yeah, you could have gone to Brazil, had some implanted to your butt.
Cheap. So they put that.
My ass is big enough anyway. It doesn't need implants.
They always put that really dangerous chemical into people as well, don't they?
Oh yeah, cement.
Yeah, cement. You could implant cement into your buttocks.
Sorry, Dave, I'm laughing at the idea that you would, as a kid, go to Brazil, get an arse implant, and then you come back and your dad's about to hit you, and then your dad gets a massive bone off again. Bloody hell, look at that bum. Bloody hell, what a booty this boy's got.
Even worse if the bottom half of me was half leopard.
It looked like you were wearing leopard print leggings.
Yeah, like Rod Stewart.
Yeah, it could be like Rod Stewart on the Kenny Everett show where his bum gets bigger and bigger.
Oh, boy.
Modern cultural references we've got here for millennials.
No,
Relatable.
So, we come to the... do people enjoy the floppy? I thought it was nice art.
Yeah, he enjoys it's a strong word.
I tell you what, those short segments are really difficult to read.
I'd rather have seen an entire floppy of the Leopard of Lime Street or an entire floppy.
But they've got a book of that they're trying to sell you. Again, it feels like cross-selling. A lot of this feels like cross-selling, which is, as someone who just paid £6 for this, it's a bit insulting. It's a bit like when you get the free lunch at the timeshare, you pay £6 for the lunch, and you get there, and then they try and sell you everything else once you're in the door.
You broke up on me then, Julius.
I'm sorry. We can hopefully get back together.
Oh my fucking word! I've just seen this Steel Commando. I thought I read it all, but I didn't. Steel Commando is amazing.
I did notice that as well. I forgot to
Just
read
get
the
his
last
good
bit of the floppy.
You got this absolutely stupid fucking robot soldier that just punches people.
Very much of its time. Most of his antics involve peeling potatoes, huge piles of potatoes. I think that was the army punishment then, wasn't it?
Oh, that'll stop the Soviet Union.
They reprinted some Steel Commando in a tiny little book, didn't they? And it made
Yeah, it really
everyone
pissed
really
me off,
angry.
Yeah, I wanted to buy that, and then they released it in like it was terrible size.
We want to print it, but we don't want to use too much paper, so let's print it tiny.
And then it didn't sell very well. Funny that.
And Dr. Mesmer's Revenge.
Oh, I didn't bother with that. I got bored. Too funny.
Yeah, same here. It's quite.
Same with Von Hoffman. Yeah, terrible.
It's just that these stories are, unless they're written by really good writers, and apologies if Tom Tully is watching. I don't know. Is he still alive? I don't know.
No, you need to read the book.
His stuff is incredibly bad to read.
But he used to brag about how he could knock out so many stories at a time.
So
you know,
those writers, when a writer brags about how much they've written, like a huge amount very quickly, it's not a seal of quality.
No. You get artists like that as well, though, don't you?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's like, why would you admit online? Well, maybe you can do it. Maybe you can knock out all the pages. But if you're saying that online and people are looking at it, they're like, well, you're not going to give us anything good, are you? Especially if your stuff is consistently terrible.
No, I think if you're an artist and you can say how many pictures you can knock out and it's like loads and loads of pages in a short space of time, they are inevitably going to be shit. Let's be honest.
Some people, I'm sure, are fast and great. You know,
I think that if you're able to actually produce a lot of work in a very short space of time, and they are very good, I would imagine that what the artist is doing is using very sort of simple techniques and simple drawings, but making it engaging. I think
Steve Dillon was very quick, but he would basically draw the same stuff over and over. It was good stuff, but he would draw the same faces over and over again.
Every woman looked exactly the same, didn't it?
Yeah. Is that one of those novelty, like rude ape? Remember those little wind-up rude apes that might be doing that?
I think I live next door to a dentist.
Is someone drilling out the adrenochrome out of someone's spine?
They're just yeah, exactly. They're mining adrenochrome.
Have you ever seen anyone mine ambiatronics or quantum ethics?
No.
No.
Sorry,
Well, does know what either of those are. Please put something in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to hear about it first.
Oh, sorry, just to add, by the way, I think you're right, Julius, about the cross-selling of the floppy there. That really put me off.
And you've got a big old advert at the end for other stuff you can buy.
Yeah, I just didn't like that at all. I thought that was just a bit cheeky. Do you know, I'm actually staggered, to be honest with you, that there's still a print version of 2000 AD anyway.
Why?
You think that by now a lot of I think the way that it's just dead tree press, isn't it? Things are just moving to online now.
Old people can't handle on digital stuff. They want the paper.
Fuck 'em.
Why can't you print it on the old type of paper you used to have? And write my name at the top.
I want it on papyrus.
When I used to read all my old comics on papyrus. There weren't no letters to get upset about. It was just little images of people holding up plates and stuff.
When his grandma Cleopatra used to buy the comic for him.
Oh yeah, my nan. Cleopatra,
she died.
My nan. She put it up the top in the pyramid loft. And as she died, I can't think about it every day. I'd get sherbet dib dab, packet of burger bites, some Return of the Jedi stickers, 2000 AD, and then I'd go back to my nan's loft and I'd sit there with all her pets that are all dead now, and I'd read, and I wouldn't have to go to work and
the boss wouldn't punch me when I wasn't doing my job. Life was better then. I had my nagging wife. Oh, God. My kids were all losers. I just want to die.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds familiar. I love that you thought that someone like that would actually have a wife.
Oh, that's true.
I think we haven't played this month.
Lawless, definitely.
What about you, Kay?
Oh yeah, Lawless, yeah.
K-hole, that should be your new nickname, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's really fantastic.
About Lawless, by the way, is that even now I still find the white space a bit hard to work with.
You
but
colour it in.
that's what I should just do, just colour it in. But I love the writing, and it's really engaging. The dance number, which you mentioned earlier on, always puts me off when I see that in comic. But yeah, otherwise I enjoyed the writing very, very much, and the premise is great as well. It's such a cool idea. So if you can send me links, Dave, to the first 2 books, that'd be great. Well, gang, it's been emotional.
Has. Bye-bye.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?